Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video. I hope you're all doing well. So today we're doing an episode of Retro Read Through. Now it was meant to be the unboxing for Legions Imperialis, but unfortunately the retailer that I've ordered it from has let me down. They've not dispatched the item. Let's just say it's been waylaid. If you know, you know. And we won't be using those guys again, but instead we're doing an episode of Retro Read Through. This one is White Dwarf 382 back in October 2011, and this one is all about Dreadfleet. Now, it was pretty much the entire issue was dedicated to Dreadfleet. Now, if you don't know what Dreadfleet is, it is a naval combat game set in the Warhammer universe, Warhammer Fantasy universe, and it came along pretty much without any announcement whatsoever. It just appeared in White Dwarf and appeared in Warhammer stores, and even some stores apparently only got briefed a couple of days before and got their set sent to them a couple of days before the release. It was a disastrous release, and you got to bear in mind this was back when Games Workshop didn't really communicate with their fans an awful lot. There was no Warhammer community team, so it was a very bizarre release. And the annoying thing about it all was it was actually a very good game. Now I think a lot of people expected it to be the spiritual successor to Man of War, but it was a standalone game that you could play in sort of a campaign setting rather than an ongoing game system. But it came with some absolutely stunning miniatures, as you'll see throughout this read through, and some nice terrain and a cloth playmat in the box as well. And it was just such a bizarre release. I think if they'd have done it today and bigged it up on the Warhammer community website, you know, with previews and things like that, I think this game would do awfully well rather than the sort of disaster that they had when they released it. But anyway, ship's log instead of the editorials. As you can see, it's a very nautical themed edition of White Dwarf, and rather fittingly this one got wet as well. So moving on, Dreadfleet. So as I said, set sail for adventure in the deadly tides of the Warhammer world. It came with some absolutely gorgeous miniatures. I've got a couple that I've got painted up, and it was just a lovely box set, to be honest with you. So in the box you got a 98-page rulebook. Again, it was a really nice rulebook. I think I might do an unboxing video actually of my copy, and I've also got a friend with a sealed copy, and if I can convince him to let me unbox his, maybe we'll do that one as well. But you got 10 warships, some scenic bases, some little auxiliaries as well. So you got some auxiliary ships, like one of the dwarf vessel could launch a dirigible and stuff like that. You got an absolutely gorgeous cloth playmat and everything you needed to play the game. It really is a nice box, and as I said, it's just a shame that it released the way it did. Citadel cleanup tools, so you got your mold line scraper and your brush, black library, and a Citadel toolkit, £70. Wow, that is not cheap. And then Ultramarines the movie, do you remember that one? That was interesting, to say the least. It was all right, but it wasn't what I expected. But anyway, Talisman, Warhammer Invasion, and then just starting to make their mark on social media and stuff like that. And then Dreadfleet, Death on the Ocean Waves. So I think the premise of the game, if I remember rightly, and I might shoot myself in the foot here, you had a captain, Jago Roth. I think he was out for revenge because the Dreadfleet were raiding different cities and stuff like that, and they killed his family, so he wanted revenge and created a mighty fleet to go after the Dreadfleet. So that was his flagship, the Heldenhammer. And this, like I said, this game was all about that campaign for wiping out the Dreadfleet with the good guys, if you like. So moving through, let's get to the gauging the wind. So there you go, the wind gauge is an important part of the game. That did make it interesting because you don't know what the wind was going to do each turn, so that could affect how you were going to play the game and how your ships could move. So the box was split into two forces. You had the Grand Alliance and you had the Dreadfleet. So as I said, you got some main ships in each one, and then there were some auxiliary ships, like the Elf ship had a dragon, the Dwarf ship could launch a dirigible. Then we had some smaller auxiliaries and stuff like that. So the main ship on the good guys' side was Jago Roth's Heldenhammer, and he had a big massive hammer on the front that could literally just smash enemy ships. And then we had the Bloody Reaver, which is really a nice looking miniature. The paint jobs on these are absolutely stunning. There's a little bit of artwork for each captain as well, which is replicated throughout the rule book. Then we've got the Swordfish, again with the captain there. Can't remember what she's called, so if I can see it there. Aranessa Assault Spite, so there's all sorts of cool names as well. The Curse of Xandria as well, and again a really nice Tomb King's theme ship as well. what I might do, I need to finish painting the rest of mine, and now with the advent of contrast paints and stuff like that, I wonder how much could you get done with just contrast paints. Like these ores and stuff like that would be perfect for Wildwood, which is one of my favourite contrast colours. You could use Leviathan blue on all this Ushabti here with the gold and stuff like that. Just use a few metallics and some contrast paints. I reckon you could get these done pretty quickly. The Flaming Scimitar, again a really nice ship, and that would be great for contrast paints as well. The Shade Wraith, that's pretty much built for contrast paints, and if you want to see what one looks like painted up, that's mine. That was done before contrast actually, but yeah, that's really nice miniature. Love that one. And then moving on, we've got Grimnir's Thunder, so we've got a dwarf ironclad with a little dirigible, and then a Chaos Dwarf ship, the Black Kraken. That's probably my favourite one out of the entire box, I would say, just because of how crazy it is, and that one was the first one I actually painted up as well. Really like this one. I've used some gloss varnish on it as well to make it look like it was soaking wet. But yeah, as I said, it's just a box full of really nice miniatures, and if they brought it out today, I would hope that it would do well. The Sea Drake with the dragons, so you've got a high elf warship there. Then we've got Scabrous, which is some sort of dead sea creature that the Skaven have decided to just bring back to life with warp magic and stuff like that. So again, another cool ship. Then there's a battle report, so Battle of Corpse Reef. You've got stuff about the wind gauge and stuff like that. Changing heading, that was really interesting. So you had a turn gauge, and depending on what your manoeuvrability was for your ship, some of them had to travel a certain number of inches in a straight line before they could make their turn, whereas the faster, more agile ship only had to travel a couple of inches before they turned. So it made it interesting because you had to plan your turns. If there was an island in front of you or something like that, you had to make sure you had enough room to go forward before you turned, rather than smashing into the island. So it did make it quite interesting when you're moving your ships and stuff like that. You give each ship orders, and you've got arcs of fire for broadsides and stuff like that, taking hull damage. The whole White Dwarf issue, by the way, has got this nautical theme throughout it. It's really good. There's a few little bits of monsters in the box as well as like rocky terrain. You get sort of ghouls and sea creatures poking out. You can board ships as well, which is really cool. So there you go, Dreadfleet in store this month. As you can see, it was marketed heavily in White Dwarf, but nowhere else. It was just utterly bizarre the way it was released. Hoist the Black Flag. So. And then we've got Tactica Dreadfleet, so all about tactics, so it's telling you what warships are good at various things, like Heldenhammer is great for broadsides and ram attacks and boarding actions. Obviously with that big hammer, it's just going to smash any ship. It's not good at manoeuvring or speed, so that one is one of the ships where you had to take quite a bit of distance before you could turn. Whereas if you look at something like the Sea Drake, raw speed and manoeuvring, so the high elf ship could turn really well, but it was a bit naff at broadside. So depending on how you could use your ships and what tactics you would use and stuff like that, really good game. And then again, more tactics on formations and stuff like that. So you got your classic galleon line of stern, you've got tons of broadsides going off, different ways of manoeuvring your ships and different ways to board as well. So a lot of effort went into the game and into the White Dwarf thing, but obviously it was that time when Games Workshop were a bit weird and didn't want to communicate with the fans and didn't want to tell them what was going on, because maybe some of the people at the top, I don't know, had certain attitudes. But again, loads of stuff about Dreadfleet, you know, how to move your ships. Obviously this is the battle report, so you can see turn 1, turn 3, stuff about your dirigibles, but it explains everything that's happening throughout the battle reports. Obviously if you can read this text, feel free to pause the video and have a look. So I'll just skip through this. Fully illustrated, and as you can see, the miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. There's nothing wrong with them. Hero of the Hour, the Flaming Scimitar, and then Villain of the Piece, the Black Kraken. So I've obviously done some damage, and then we're on to Warhammer Fantasy. So there is a little bit of non-Dreadfleet content in this magazine. So a little bit of fantasy stuff here, some gorgeous painted miniatures as usual when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy. I used to love seeing this in White Dwarf, especially when they get the terrain and all the background in there and stuff like that. Island of Blood, so 8th edition fantasy, probably the best fantasy box set that's ever been, especially with the high elves like the Lothern Sea Guard and stuff like that, and you got a load of Skaven in the box as well. Yeah, and then back to Standard Bearer by Jervis Johnson, School League. That's a pretty impressive terrain piece there. And then moving on to Hobby Essentials, so your super expensive Games Workshop tools and some of your cheaper ones as well. Mold line cleaner, I think I've still got one of these somewhere as well. Yep. But some of them were just a bit ridiculous, and the prices were a bit ridiculous for some of them as well. But tips on how to use them and stuff like that, and then assembling the wyvern head and tail here. So it's like a fine cast miniature showing you what to do for cleaning it up. Good luck with that. They weren't always brilliant, were they, when it was fine cast. And then more tools of the trade. The spray gun, that didn't last very long, did it? Hobby drill, you still get the various variations of these now, but a lot more expensive. Paint station, hobby vice, skull white, chaos black, £9.50. And then Warhammer Fantasy Ogre Kingdoms, lead belchers, iron blaster, the monstrous host, Mournfang cavalry, Ogre Kingdoms. So we've got lead belchers, iron guts, and some ogres there. £23 for the ogres. Again, really nice painted miniatures. Scrolls of Binding. So Scrolls of Binding allows players to include huge hulking monsters, terrifying beasts, and even stranger creatures in their Storm of Magic armies. Thunder Tusk, Mournfang, Stonehorn, and then we're on to battle missions. Sisters of Battle. So some mission stuff for Sisters of Battle, stuff like that, and a deployment map. So this is obviously, I think it's 5th edition, 40k at the time, I think. Assault on Black Reach, if I remember rightly. So stuff for the sisters there. Obviously we've got our new miniatures for the sisters now, and a nice overview of the battle there. There we go. Yep, Assault on Black Reach. So Dreadnought, Terminators, Tactical Squad, and the Captain, and then you got the Orc War Boss. The old Orc Deathcopters there, I should say. I remember that box set very well. And then back on to Dreadfleet. So now it's all about painting Dreadfleet. Now, one of the cool things about this edition was, as well as it obviously being all about Dreadfleet, there was a painting guide for each ship in the box, which is really awesome. So step by step for the hull, for the battlements on the ship, if you like, and for the sails, and also the various bits and bats on the ship as well. So base coat the temple walls with Codex grey. So obviously in today's money, I think that would be Dawnstone, wouldn't it? And then moving on, all the different steps to get it all the way up to tabletop standard, and a little bit of an assembly guide for each ship as well. Same again for the Bloody Reaver. You got a little bit of an assembly guide, painting the sails, painting the hull, painting the citadel on the top. So each ship came with its own painting guide, which I think is really cool. Flaming Scimitar, the Shade Wraith. So obviously now with the advent of contrast paints, this would be absolutely perfect for this ship. You could just slap some contrast on this, on like a Grey Seer base coat, and you're pretty much done and dusted. The Swordfish, Curse of Xandri. So I think I am going to do a video about painting all these ships and see how much I can get away with using just contrast paints, and then obviously just do some tidying up with proper base colours. Grimnir's Thunder, the Black Kraken. As I said, I've already painted this one up. Assembly guides again, and there's also a guide as well which you'll see on how to paint these sea bases, which should come to towards the end. The Sea Drake. Some of these obviously will be a lot easier to paint with the sails off. So base coat the sails, you'd probably do that with Macragge blue, wouldn't you? And then layer over with maybe Calgar blue or something like that, or maybe not Calgar blue, that's it, whatever the next one up is, Calidor Sky, I think. Additional details, so you've got the dirigible, the dragons, again, perfect for contrast. Painting the dwarf shipwreck, and then there you go, painting the water and the waves. So you'd base coat it with regal blue, heavily dry brush the water with enchanted blue, dry brush the water ice blue, and then apply a heavy wash of Badder black and Thraka green. So try and work that out into today's money. You want your Crimson Fist blue there, don't you? Then dry brush it with either Macragge blue or Calidor Sky or something like that, and then Hoeth blue, and then you would want a black wash with a bit of green in there just to run it into the details, or maybe the contrast paints you could use as well if you thin them down with a bit of contrast medium. But like I said, all the stuff in here, I think there's terrain, yeah, there it is. So painting the islands, so how to paint the islands and get them like a mossy look on them and stuff like that, and even the volcano bit as well. It doesn't actually show it properly in the magazine, but one of the terrain pieces, there's like a castle on it, and there's a volcano inside as well, so it's even showing you how to paint the lava bubbles in there as well, and how to prepare your models for Dreadfleet. And there we go. So moving on to the usual stuff you'd get at the back of a White Dwarf magazine. There's a Warhammer World campaign weekend fantasy storm of magic, and then events diary. I don't know if there's any mail order stuff at the back of this magazine. I haven't checked. I should have checked before I made the video. But yeah, cool events diary, store finder, Throne of Skulls, heavy metal masterclass. I don't think there is a mail order section actually. And then all your retailers and independent retailers and stuff like that in the UK and across the world. And then Games Workshop premium stores. And then yeah, there is still a mail order bit at the back, and this time in colour. So you got Old School Sisters of Battle, so the Canoness, Hospitalia, Celestine, the Old School Living Saints, Battle Sisters. Then we've got some, rather fittingly, Pirate Captain of Sartosa, Sartosan Vampire, and a Pirate of Sartosa as well. I love that guy, he's awesome. And then direct debit for your White Dwarf subscription, and then some pictures from Dreadfleet. So the Grand Alliance crashes with the Dreadfleet on the turbulent waters of the Galleon's graveyard, and then again some more. There's pieces of your terrain with your auxiliaries. That's another one of the skeletal sea creatures you get. A shipwreck. Just like I said at the beginning of the video, a lovely box. Don't know if you can see that on the video, but you can just see the cloth map there as well. And then on the back, got a little bit of a map for Dreadfleet. This is just like the artwork in the rule book and throughout the box sets. And yeah, that is it. So that is a quick look at White Dwarf 382, which was all about Dreadfleet. Very nautical themed episode. And as I said earlier, apologies, this is not a Legions Imperialis unboxing, but I thought it'd be fun to go back and have a look at Dreadfleet. And maybe I will do an unboxing about that, and also a painting video about Dreadfleet as well, because I must admit I did enjoy painting these miniatures, and I would like to get my fleet finished off. So yeah, perhaps we'll do that. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, let me know you've enjoyed it. And if you didn't enjoy it, just do the usual, leave me a comment, let me know what you didn't like, because that will always help me make better videos. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos. But anyway, all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, it really is appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.